This program is supported by
North Luzon Express Terminal, RJK Services Manpower Agency Corporation, Stark Molecular Laboratory.
Peruvians clashed with police in Lima as they protested the curfew imposed amid toll and fuel price hikes.
President Pedro Castillo later announced the end of the curfew following crisis talks with Congress. More details on this later in the news. Good evening, I am CJ Hirro.
And I am Nina Ricci, Alagao, Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. And now for the headlines. The Russian army shot down 2 Ukrainian helicopters trying to evacuate the leaders of a nationalist battalion defending the embattled port of Mariupol. Hundreds of anti-government protesters clashed with police in Peru's capital. 4 people suspected of involvement in international drug and organ trafficking network arrested in Morocco. Space debris found in rural India. And Oscar-winning filmmaker found guilty of plagiarizing his award-winning film. President Vladimir Putin condemned measures taken against Russian gas giant Gazprom in Europe over the conflict in Ukraine and warned of potential reprisals. In a televised meeting, Putin said the situation in the energy sector is worsening as a result of non-market brute measures, including administrative pressure on Gazprom in some European countries. Germany announced on Monday that it was temporarily taking control of Gazprom's German subsidiary until September 30. It said the move was aimed at securing energy supply and critical infrastructure amid growing distrust between Russia and the West. But Putin described the possible nationalization of Russian assets as a double-edged sword. Russia provides roughly 40% of the EU's gas supply, mainly to Germany, Italy, and a few Eastern European countries.
The Russian army reported it had shot down 2 Ukrainian helicopters trying to evacuate the leaders of a nationalist battalion defending the embattled port of Mariupol. Russian Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov said they have stopped an attempt to evacuate leaders of the nationalist Azov battalion by shooting the helicopters down with their portable anti-aircraft system. He said Moscow had proposed that Ukrainian fighters lay down their arms and leave the city via an agreed route to territory under Kiev's control, but they ignored the proposal.
Утром 5 апреля в районе Мариуполя сорвана очередная попытка киевского режима эвакуировать главарей националистического батальона «Азов». 2 украинских вертолета Ми-8, пытавшиеся прорваться к городу со стороны моря, были сбиты из переносных зенитных ракетных комплексов. Ранее мы неоднократно и по всем доступным каналам доводили киевскому режиму наши предложения о возможности выхода добровольно сложивших оружие подразделений украинских вооруженных сил из Мариуполя. Данные предложения киевским режимом постоянно игнорируются. С учетом незаинтересованности Киева в сохранении жизни своих военнослужащих, Мариуполь будет освобожден от националистов подразделениями российских вооруженных сил и Донецкой Народной Республики.
Last week, he said the Russian army had shot down a Ukrainian helicopter over the Sea of Azov that had come to evacuate commanders of the Azov battalion, which has been fiercely defending Mariupol for weeks.
The United States, United Kingdom, and Australia said that they would start collaborating on hypersonic missile strike and defense capacity as rivals Russia and China advance rapidly in the cutting-edge technology. The Super Trio said they would work on hypersonics and electronic warfare capabilities in an expansion of their recent AUKUS defense alliance. Hypersonic missiles can travel more than 5 times the speed and of sound and maneuver in mid-flight, making them much harder to track and intercept than traditional projectiles. The newly pledged Trilateral Defense Pact will also equip Australia with nuclear-powered submarines to counter China's growing military clout.
Anti-government protesters clashed with police in the Peruvian capital, Lima. Peruvians were angry over fuel price hikes and tolls, as well as the curfew President Pedro Castillo imposed to contain protests. Castillo defended the measure, saying it was not against the people, but to save them and to re-establish peace. Nevertheless, Castillo lifted the curfew on Tuesday afternoon following crisis talks with Congress. He also called on Peruvians to remain calm amid growing economic hardship. AFP reports that news of the curfew's end was met with cheers by hundreds of protesters outside Congress and in other parts of the capital. Castillo's announcement of a curfew came a week after he escaped impeachment by Congress, where opponents accuse his administration of a lack of direction and of allowing corruption in his entourage.
On to Central America. The Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights expressed concern about El Salvador's approach to combating gang violence and points to alleged cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment. El Salvador's President Nayib Bukele declared a state of emergency 10 days ago, following a bloody weekend of gang violence that resulted in at least 87 killings. UN rights body spokeswoman Liz Throssell also raised the issue of El Salvador's certain amendments to criminal law and criminal procedure, such as an increase in the maximum prison sentences for children and a law that allows teenagers to be tried as adults for the most serious offenses. Throssell reminded President Bukele that the right to life, the right not to be subjected to torture, the principles of fair trial, and the presumption of innocence, as well as the procedural safeguards that protect these rights, apply at all times, even during states of emergency, especially in the case of children.
Meanwhile, U.S. President Joe Biden and his predecessor, former President Barack Obama, got together at the White House. It was the first time Obama stepped into the East Room of the White House since he left 5 years ago, handing power to Donald Trump. The peg for the reunion was a relatively happy political event, the 12th anniversary of the launch of Obamacare, which was Obama's signature domestic achievement. In his speech, Biden gave a glimpse of how health care could feature in the Democrats' bid to save their hold on Congress. He said that if Republicans get back in power, they will try to repeal the CARE Act. The mood was simultaneously nostalgic, festive, and humorous as the old team reunited.
Vice President Biden, Vice President. That was a joke. That was all set up.
My name is Joe Biden. I'm Barack Obama's Vice President.
Today, China reported its highest tally of infections since the start of the pandemic. China's zero-COVID strategy has come under immense strain as the country recorded more than 20,000 infections this day. This is its highest ever daily infection number given by authorities, even during the peak of the initial outbreak, which centered around Wuhan. The majority of the cases are, however, asymptomatic. Until March, China had kept daily cases low with snap localized lockdowns, mass testing, and strict restrictions on international travel. But the caseload has hit thousands per day in recent weeks, with Shanghai driving the surge of the highly transmissible Omicron variant. Based on a report from state news agency Xinhua, the city is converting its landmark National Exhibition and Convention Center into a makeshift COVID-19 hospital for 40,000 people, just days after setting up a temporary quarantine center in another expo hall. Next on Mata ng Agila International, Chile to vote in a mandatory referendum on a new constitution. An indigenous protest camp erected in Brazil's capital to press land rights. All these and more here on Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by
318 Automart,
Arlex Trading and Construction Supplies.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Ilalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Ecuador is the world's largest banana exporter, but the sector has been hammered by a conflict half a world away. Now, with nowhere to send them, containers of the rotting fruit are piling up not far from where they were originally harvested. Ecuador exports almost 2 million boxes of bananas a week to Eastern Europe. The tropical country's banana sales in Russia alone are worth $698 million a year. However, due to international transport sanctions over its conflict with Ukraine, Russia is not receiving its cargoes of bananas. The Russia-Ukraine conflict has stopped production in El Triunfo, close to Ecuador's main port. Some banana plantation workers there are voluntarily leaving because the owners can no longer pay them. The banana industry generates 50,000 direct jobs and 250,000 indirect ones in Ecuador. The conflict has already cost around 6,000 permanent employees their jobs, according to Accorbanik.
Marine Le Pen's far-right party appears to have a real chance to challenge incumbent President Emmanuel Macron in the election slated this month. Short of a major upset, polling suggests she will reach the runoff on April 24 against the centrist after Sunday's first-round vote. Macron is not assured of the support of the traditional United Front of mainstream French voters that have seen Le Pen and her father off in previous elections. Her strong performance is in large part credited to her ability to soften their image in the 11 years she has led the former National Front, which she renamed the National Rally after expelling her father in 2015. National Rally interim President Jordan Bardella said they are within the margin of error to beat Macron, and the momentum in Le Pen's favor has never been this strong. But political scientist Jean-Yves Camus cautioned that the final points to take a candidate to 50% of the vote are the hardest to win.
In South America, Chileans will vote in a mandatory referendum to approve or reject a new constitution on September 4. The date is symbolic in Chile. It was the traditional date for presidential elections until the coup d'etat that ousted socialist leader Salvador Allende and ushered in nearly 2 decades of dictatorship. Chile is going through profound change since former student leader and now elected president Gabriel Boric led an anti-inequality social uprising in 2019. The 2019 protests led to a referendum in 2020 in which Chileans voted overwhelmingly in favor of replacing the constitution enacted in 1980 by the regime of dictator Augusto Pinochet.
Indigenous people camp outside Congress in Brasilia to defend their rights. Indigenous people celebrate the second day of the 18th edition of the Free Land Camp in Brasilia, the largest indigenous mobilization in Brazil to defend the rights of ancestral communities and reject the advance in Congress of bills proposed by the ultra-right-wing government of Jair Bolsonaro. Bolsonaro aspires to open up indigenous territories to mining activities. Vanda Ortega Witoto, activist of Witoto indigenous people and pre-candidate to federal congresswoman, said there are several bills in Congress which aims to open up indigenous territories to mining, and they will make sure that these bills will not move forward. The Free Land Camp is the largest indigenous mobilization in Brazil, where people from all over the country come to Brasilia to claim their rights. The Free Land Camp began on April 4 and runs until April 14 and resumes its face-to-face format after having been held virtually for 2 years due to the coronavirus pandemic. The organizers expect to mobilize between 7,000 and 8,000 indigenous people from all over Brazil.
There is a glitch in the current healthcare reform law in the United States called Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. In Washington, Jeff Sanidad tells us what the Biden administration is proposing to fix it so that millions of Americans can avail of affordable, high-quality health care.
Today, President Biden proposes a rule to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, or ACA, by fixing what his administration calls the family glitch. The changes would save hundreds of thousands of families hundreds of dollars a month. Under the Act, people who do not have access to affordable health insurance through their jobs may qualify for a premium tax credit to purchase affordable, high-quality coverage on the ACA's health insurance marketplace. Current regulations define employer-based health insurance as affordable if the coverage for the employee and that for family members is affordable. This makes family members ineligible for a premium tax credit even though they need to afford high-quality coverage through the marketplace. Because of this, the cost of family coverage can sometimes be very expensive and make health insurance out of reach. The so-called family glitch affects about 5 million people and has made it impossible for many families to use the premium tax credit to purchase an affordable, high-quality marketplace plan. The proposed fix: if a workplace plan for a whole family costs more than 10% of family's income, then the worker's spouse and children could now get help in purchasing a health insurance plan on the ACA marketplace. The White House statement says, should the proposed changes be made, it's estimated that 200,000 uninsured people would gain coverage and nearly 1 million Americans would see their coverage become more affordable. Jeff Sanidad, Mata ng Agila International, Washington, D.C. Trusted, connected, on point.
College students in Pennsylvania who are experiencing food insecurity might just get themselves out of undernutrition with help from the state. From Pennsylvania, USA, Myla Simbulan reports.
Did you know that over 30% of college students here in the United States are food insecure? Yes, more than 30 in every 100 college students do not have enough to feed themselves properly. Here in Pennsylvania, $1 million have just been allocated to create a grant program addressing food insecurity in college campuses. The program aims to expand campus food pantries, increase outreach about available supports, hire social workers or benefits navigators to assist students, and improve data gathering efforts. Reports say over 30% of students know someone who dropped out of college due to food insecurity during the pandemic. And more than 50% of students who faced food or housing insecurity in 2020 did not apply for support. Why? Because they did not know how. Many college students who are coming out of high school have relied on free or reduced-priced meals throughout their education. And even though a student's socioeconomic status likely has not changed, those programs do not exist for college students. The food challenges they had in grade school follow them into the next phase of their lives, and it may be more difficult of a challenge as they juggle new financial responsibilities like housing, books, and other costs. Myla Simbulan, Mata ng Agila International, Swarthmore, Pennsylvania. Trusted, connected, on point.
In North Africa, the Moroccan police arrested 4 suspects allegedly involved in international drug and organ trafficking network operations between Morocco and Turkey. The authorities launched an investigation after an announcement was published on social media proposing kidney removal in private clinics abroad for large sums of foreign currency. The 4 suspects, including 3 women, were allegedly intermediaries, helping those wishing to sell their organs to go abroad, in particular to Turkey. Authorities said that 2 victims have also been identified. The investigation is ongoing in coordination with Interpol in Turkey. Coming right up, stolen Charles Darwin notebooks that were missing for decades finally returned. France builds a dike to combat rising sea levels. And space debris found in rural India. Where does it likely come from? Stay tuned for more details as Mata ng Agila International returns.
This portion is brought to you by
Quezon City Motor Vehicle Inspection Center.
Robig Builders.
Mula noon hanggang ngayon, gabay natin ang MTRCB ratings sa matalino at responsableng panonood. Sa tamang pagsunod sa MTRCB ratings, ginagawa nating ligtas at makabuluhan ang panonood ng bawat miyembro ng pamilyang Pilipino. Lumipas man ang panahon, hanggang may pamilyang Pilipino, andyan ang MTRCB.
Sigurado ako, maraming tao sa araw ng botohan.
Naku, sinabi mo pa, pila dito, pila doon. Napakaraming tao.
Alam nyo ba, sa araw ng botohan, bukas na ang presinto ng alas 6 ng umaga.
Bukas na ang presinto ng alas 6 ng umaga?
Wow! Parang choir! Mula alas 6 ng umaga hanggang alas 5 ng hapon.
Eto nga, ang hirap pa niyan, yung hanapan ng presinto.
Kaya nga sa araw ng botohan, mas makabubuting dumating ng maaga sa presinto para iwas sa siksikan at sa dami ng tao. Naku! Iwas din sa init.
Tama! Agahan natin ang pagboto.
Korek ka dyan, Mare. Teka lang, nagtitinda ka ng balot? Ay, ang aga pa.
Dahil the early bird catches... Wala palang bird. Balot! Balot! The early balot catches... Hindi naman kayo, worm. Bili na lang po kayo. Para sa karagdagang kaalaman, makipag-ugnayan lang sa pinakamalapit na barangay o bisitahin ang COMELEC website.
A public service message of Net25 for Mata ng Halalan 2022. Matatag, matapang, matapat.
Works of local Korean heritage artists in the U.S. Capitol are on center stage this year's Boundless exhibit, co-sponsored by the Korean Cultural Center. Arlene Ocampo reports straight from Washington, D.C.
Works of 46 Korean heritage artists from the Hanmi Artists Association of Greater Washington will be on center stage as the Korean Cultural Center, Washington, D.C. presents a new in-person exhibition, Boundless. The exhibit is based on personal experiences of the featured artists highlighted in 3 sections: spirit, space, and identity. Boundless in Spirit presents works that cannot be expressed in words through the use of color and media. These pieces are based on concepts of translation, reflection, and memory. Boundless in Space features works of art that involve the individual and the environment. The artists search ways in which one can construct a space for existence that is not bound by natural or created limitations. Boundless in Identity promotes works of art that explore the self within the conditions of art, language, and existence. The artists reflect on their lives, their identity, and the surrounding world. Boundless is available to view from April 8 through May 16, 2022 at the Korean Cultural Center. Arlene Ocampo, Mata ng Agila International, Washington, D.C. Trusted, connected, on point.
2 of Charles Darwin's notebooks have been returned anonymously with a gift card after going missing for over 2 decades. They were left outside Cambridge University's library and wrapped in plastic. Now, the manuscripts included Darwin's famous 1837 Tree of Life sketch and were written with ideas penned by him after his around-the-world voyage on the HMS Beagle. The books, which are said to be worth millions, are in good condition and with no obvious signs of damage, the Cambridge University said that in a statement. Now, the school also posted a video on Twitter and announced that the missing manuscripts would be on display in an exhibition free to the public this coming July.
In Peru, surfing is not only a sport. It is also being used as a therapy. Disadvantaged children in Peru who have been deprived of schooling since the COVID-19 pandemic began are benefiting from learning to surf as a therapy. A surf school on a remote Peruvian beach helps children not only to learn a new sport, but also to improve their sociability and environmental awareness. The surf school for the underprivileged children opened 2 years ago on the initiative of 28-year-old Kayosha Castro Rodriguez. She met a group of children playing on the beach and came up with the idea of teaching them the sport of surfing. Together with other volunteers, she also teaches children how to swim, as they did not know how to despite living by the sea. The volunteers also teach kids about environmental protection. Now the children collect plastic bottles for recycling, as well as other rubbish left behind by bathers.
It is now or never if we want to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius by mid-century. This is the call of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, saying that today we are at a crossroads in securing a livable future. AJ Gonzalez from Washington, D.C. reports.
In the most recent Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, or IPCC report, scientists say there is increasing evidence of climate action. However, without immediate and deep emissions reductions across all sectors, limiting global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius is beyond reach. The IPCC says since 2010, there have been sustained decreases of up to 85% in the cost of solar and wind energy and batteries. Thanks to the increasing range of policies and laws that have enhanced energy efficiency, reduced rates of deforestation, accelerated the deployment of renewable energy. IPCC Chair Hoo-sung Lee says we are at a crossroads and the decisions we make now can secure a livable future. Lee says we have the tools and the know-how required to limit warming. IPCC says limiting warming to around 1.5 degrees Celsius or 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit requires global greenhouse gas emissions to peak before 2025 at the latest. This has to be reduced by 43% by the year 2030. At the same time, methane would also need to be reduced by about a third. But even if we do this, it is almost inevitable that we will temporarily exceed this temperature threshold, but could return to below it by the end of this century. IPCC Working Group III co-chair Jim Skea says it is now or never if we want to limit global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. Without immediate and deep emissions reductions across all sectors, it will be impossible. EJ Gonzalez, Mata ng Agila International, Washington, D.C., trusted, connected, on point.
Fresh water represents only 2.5% of the water available on the planet. That is why water recycling and reuse is becoming a major environmental, social, and economic issue.
Around 80% of the world's wastewater is discharged into the environment without any treatment to remove pollution. Of the 20% that is treated, only a very small portion is recycled for immediate reuse. Recycling wastewater from showers, washing machines, swimming pools, and industrial production is not widely done, yet it helps save precious water and reduces harmful discharges into the environment. Recycled water can be used to supply toilets, water green spaces, and clean roads, aircraft engines, or industrial facilities. It can be returned to nature or even turned into drinking water. In Singapore, up to 900,000 litres of clean water per day are currently produced from wastewater, meeting 40% of the city-state's needs. 30% of the recycled water is used domestically. Water reuse is an important asset in areas where water resources are almost non-existent. The process begins with a first filtration using thin membranes to retain solid particles. A second filtration process only allows small molecules, such as water, to pass through, excluding bacteria, viruses, and pesticides. Finally, UV illumination is used to remove any living organisms that may still be present. Fresh water represents only 2.5% of the water available on the planet. Despite uneven development of recycled water worldwide, mainly due to psychological barriers, water reuse is becoming a major environmental, social, and economic issue.
Rising sea levels in northern France prompted authorities to build a dike. This was in an attempt to stop water from reaching the Gravelines power plant, the country's largest nuclear power plant. Experts report an extreme risk of flooding attributed to global warming. The director of the Gravelines nuclear power plant nonetheless assured that by design, the plant is already safe. He said they have just integrated the international feedback from Fukushima, where an extreme risk occurred. And so their objective is to try to cover these extreme risks by complementary installations. The construction work will last roughly 2 years for a sum of $38 million.
In the global fight against climate change, what is Nevada doing to join the world in reducing greenhouse gas emissions? In Las Vegas, Ana Cui reports.
The pandemic caused an upswing in relocations across the nation, and Las Vegas is one of those cities that continues to see an influx of people moving in. But is the city prepared to sustain the needs of its ever-growing population? For starters, Nevada is headed in the right direction when it comes to energy use. The state was recognized as a leader in green buildings and ranked 10th on the top 10 states for leadership in energy by the U.S. Green Building Council for 2021. Governor Steve Sisolak stated in a previous press release that green building standards are just one of the important tools the state can use to reduce emissions. Palazzo and the city center are just two examples of some of the largest LEED certified buildings that have been around in Las Vegas. In 2021, Nevada certified 9 projects representing over 4 million square feet of space that used fewer resources, thereby reducing carbon emissions and improving efficiency while providing operational cost savings. In addition to green building standards, Nevada adopted standards for light bulbs, replacing 42,000 street lights to LED lighting. Government officials also proposed the Appliance Efficiency Bill that takes effect in July 2023. It will set minimum energy efficiency standards for a wide range of appliances used in the homes and businesses in Nevada, ranging from water coolers and air purifiers to commercial fryers and ovens. This project estimates that the state would save more than $29 million a year by 2035, while removing the carbon emissions equivalent of 28,000 cars from Nevada roads. Speaking of roads, the transportation sector produces the largest share of greenhouse gas emissions, and with the increase in the state's population, especially in Las Vegas, there is a need for cleaner transportation options. According to Impact Nevada, Las Vegas is ranked the top metro area with electric vehicle or EV growth in the U.S. And with more EVs on the road, they say the state can reduce emissions by over 50%. It's also good for the economy as EVs don't need oil changes and electric charging is much cheaper than gas, especially right now. Ana Cui, Matandang Agila International, Las Vegas, Nevada. Trusted, connected, on point.
In India, a large metal ring and sphere that villagers said fell from the sky over the weekend could be from a Chinese rocket launched into space last year. Officials told local media that the metal ring, reportedly 2 to 3 meters in diameter and weighing over 40 kilograms, was discovered in a village field in Maharashtra state late Saturday. A witness told the Times of India that they saw in the sky a blaze with a red disc fell with a bang on an open plot in the village. PTI also reported that another object, a large metal ball around half a meter in diameter, fell in another village in the district Gulhani. There were no reports of injuries or structural damage. An Indian space research organization official told the Times that the timing of the object's arrival was the closest to match to the re-entry times on Saturday for debris from a Chinese rocket launched in February 2021.
1 year before its launch from the Kourou base, Airbus presents the European probe JUICE, or the Jupiter Icy Moons Explorer. The said space probe will take a closer look at Jupiter and its icy moons Ganymede, Europa, and Callisto. Manuela Baroni, head of JUICE Launcher Interface, explained that one can consider Jupiter as a gas giant with planets going around it. By studying this mini solar system, she said differences and similarities to our own solar system can be found, which can then help people better understand our Earth and how it works. Up next, Asian Development Bank trims Asia growth forecasts as price pressures rise. Tiger Woods returns at the Masters. World's #1 Scheffler also plays. And Oscar-winning Iranian filmmaker found guilty of plagiarizing his former student's film. For more stories, keep tuning in to Mata ng Agila International.
This portion is brought to you by SCCI Management and Insurance Agency Corporation and Source Alliance.
Mr. Bawal, ang galing mo namang sumayaw. Pwedeng pakopya ng dance steps mo? Oo naman, Mr. Pwede. Mr. Bawal, ang ganda rin ng forma mo. Pwedeng pakopya ng forma mo? Oo ba? Mr. Bawal, pakopya naman sagot mo. Yan ang hindi pwede. Ang pagsilip sa sagot ng iba, lalong-lalong na sa butuan. Oy! Bawal yan!
Ayon sa Omnibus Election Code, ang pagtatangkang silipin at alamin ang boto ng iba ay isang election offense.
Mr. Pwede? Please report to the principal's office.
Ako si Mr. Bawal, nagpapaalala sa inyo na ang pagsilip sa boto ng ibang botante. Oy! Bawal yan!
A public service message of Net25 for Mata ng Halalan 2022. Matatag, matapang, matapat.
This portion is brought to you by Canrev Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Services offered: supply and installation of elevators, escalators, air conditioners, ventilators, jet towel hand dryers, generators, access control system, factory automation and modernization. For more information, please contact Ami Kanke.
The Asian Development Bank, or ADB, trimmed its 2022 growth forecast for developing Asia. In the wake of the Omicron-driven surge and the conflict in Ukraine, ADB lowered this year's economic growth forecast to 5.2%. This compares with the 6.9% growth it chalked up last year. While the bank was optimistic that developing Asia would continue to rebound from COVID-19, Chief Economist Albert Park said the recovery would be uneven and there were significant downside risks. He warned that price pressures are increasing and monetary authorities need to remain vigilant. Countries in the Caucasus and Central Asia were expected to record the slowest growth, with 3.6% in 2022, down from 5.6% in 2021.
Twitter announced that Elon Musk will join its board of directors a day after he became its largest shareholder. In a Twitter post, the social network's chief executive, Parag Agrawal, said he is excited to announce the appointment of Musk and is expecting him to bring great value to the board. He called Musk a passionate believer and intense critic of the service, which is exactly what the company needs. Musk will remain on Twitter's board until the company's annual shareholders meeting in 2024, and he has promised not to take a stake larger than 14.9% in the company during that time, according to a securities filing. Twitter also announced that it will soon start experimenting with an edit button, but would only start on Twitter Blue, its monthly subscription service. The inability to tweak tweets after firing them off has been a key complaint among users of the one-to-many messaging platform. Word that the company would start testing an edit feature on Twitter Blue came after newly named board member Elon Musk conducted an online poll where he asked if people wanted an edit button at Twitter. Nearly 4.4 million votes were cast, some 73% of them saying yes.
Days ahead of publishing UK's energy supply plan, Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng has given the British Geological Survey, or BGS, 3 months to assess any changes to the science of the controversial practice of fracking. Fracking, or hydraulic fracturing, was halted in the UK in 2019 amid opposition from green groups and local concerns over earth tremors. But in recent weeks, senior conservatives have been calling for a rethink and claimed fracking would give the country a competitive and reliable source of energy amid concerns over security of access and rising energy prices. Earlier, Kwarteng insisted upon the government to be led by science in its approach to fracking and that it would remain banned unless it was shown to be sustainable and safe for those living and working nearby. World #1 Scottie Scheffler is just fine with Tiger Woods dominating the scene this week at the Masters. After 3 wins in the past 2 months, Scheffler is the hottest golfer in the world who took the top spot from reigning U.S. Open champion John Ram by outplaying him at the WGC match play. Scheffler said that everyone must focus on Woods and his astonishing comeback tale from severe leg injuries to playing for a major title only 14 months later, and not on him trying to win his first major title. Making his 10th major start, Scheffler must fight to keep his top ranking this week, as 5 players could dethrone him. Selena Gomez said that she has stayed off the internet for the last 4.5 years, and it's been great for her mental health. The multimedia star shared that she is happier, more present, more connected with people. Another way she protects her mental health is by stepping away from social media, despite having 310 million followers on Instagram and 37.9 million followers on TikTok. Gomez also spoke candidly about her mental health struggles over the years. After being diagnosed with lupus, she sought treatment at a facility in 2014.
Singing for solidarity. This is what New York's Broadway performers are doing in support for Ukraine. In Times Square, Joanne Soriano has the details.
Broadway stars took to the streets of Times Square to show their support for Ukraine the best way they know how, through song. Instead of their usual places on stage, the performers stood in the rain on West 47th Street to perform a timely rendition of Do You Hear the People Sing from the hit musical Les Miserables. One verse of the song was translated into Ukrainian. A momentary billboard takeover also displayed the Ukrainian flag on the iconic screens for 3 minutes during the musical vigil.
Strong and stand with me. Somewhere beyond the barricade, is there a world you long to see?
This is what we know how to do. We know how to share messages of hope and solidarity through music. And I felt very inspired that we could all come together and use our voice in solidarity with Ukraine.
I'm proud to stand with my brothers and sisters of Broadway, of the Broadway community, as we raise our voices and support. Hopefully they hear it across the way.
Echoes the beating of the drums. There is a life about to start when tomorrow comes.
This is a tragedy, what's happening. And I don't think that we can sit around and not do anything. And I've been wanting to do something, and I know this is so little, but at least it's something.
New York State has the largest Ukrainian population in the United States. Joanne Soriano, mata ng Agila International, New York, New York, trusted, connected, on point.
Iranian filmmaker Asghar Farhadi has been found guilty of plagiarism by an Iranian court for lifting the concept of his film, A Hero, from a documentary made by one of his former students. Azadeh Mashijadeh claimed the Oscar winner stole the idea for A Hero from her documentary All Winners, All Losers. The Tehran court decided that Farhadi violated the copyright of Mashijadeh by taking key elements of the documentary without crediting Mashijadeh. Meanwhile, Farhadi's countersuit accusing Mashijadeh of defamation was dismissed by the Iranian court due to insufficient evidence.
From one case to another, British singer-songwriter Ed Sheeran has won a high court copyright battle over his 2017 hit, Shape of You. The London's High Court ruled that his hit song did not lift musical phrases from the 2015 song Oh Why by Sami Chokri. After studying the musical elements, Judge Zaccaroli ruled that there are obvious similarities between hooks in the two songs, but there were also important differences.
Whilst we're obviously happy with the result, I feel like claims like this are way too common now and have become a culture where a claim is made with the idea that a settlement will be cheaper than taking it to court, even if there's no base for the claim. It's really damaging to the songwriting industry. There's only so many notes and very few chords used in pop music. Coincidence is bound to happen if 60,000 songs are being released every day on Spotify. That's 22 million songs a year, and there's only 12 notes that are available.
The controversial song won Sheeran a Grammy for Best Pop Solo Performance in 2018.
On this day in 1896, the first modern Olympics officially opened in Athens, Greece. 241 athletes from 14 countries participated in the first Olympiad after 1,500 years since the last ancient Olympic Games. Meanwhile, on the same date in 1974, Swedish Europop group ABBA had their international breakthrough as they captured the top prize at the Eurovision Song Contest in Waterloo. And in 1994, the Rwandan genocide began. The assassination of Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana and Burundian President Cyprien Hadyamira triggered a mass slaughter of ethnic Tutsis with up to 1 million victims.
Before we conclude tonight's broadcast, let us be reminded of what Nelson Mandela said. Great anger and violence can never build a nation.
And that's a wrap for tonight's news. Catch the latest updates on our social media channels. I'm CJ Hirro.
And I am Nina Ricci, Alagao, Flores. This is Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.